Welcome to the new IT. We're here at the new IT studio. Is that a thing? The new IT studios? Sure it is.
Of course. Why would it not be?
Yeah, why not? Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We are here to talk about, of course, the future of IT, well, and just all kinds of things IT. What are we talking about today, Brad?
Today's topic is in the hot seat.
In the hot seat. What on earth could that mean, in the hot seat? What are we talking about?
Well, it means lots of things, but in the context of today's show, I think we want to dive into understanding what it is to be in the interview process when you go through an interview.
Specifically, of course, for IT.
Absolutely.
So what are you going to expect? What do you think? How you should do it? I don't know. I've got my own opinions about this whole thing, and maybe even got a story about it we'll talk about. But
absolutely,
how are we going to dive into this? What's the importance? How important is it, do you think, Brad, for knowing how to interview well on both sides, right? From the client's perspective and from the potential hire.
Yeah, hiree. Obviously I think it's really important all around, but more than anything else, I think you have to be comfortable to be able to know what your strengths and your weaknesses are, and how to showcase your strengths. So, yeah, that's my, in a summary, my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of talk about the different standard questions and how we think those questions pertain to IT or not.
Yeah.
We've got, tell me a little about yourself. Let's just dive into that question for a minute. That's always, that's kind of one of the first, what's the whole point of that? We're sitting down. We want to get to know, I guess, that person a little bit. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Should they go off, tell their whole biography about how they started off as a small child in the backwoods of Canada and they were born from
Absolutely. I want to know all about that. No. I don't have time for that. And nor does any hiring manager. But from that standpoint, you do want to kind of, me personally, when I ask that question, I do want to know, I'm judging a candidate's openness and being able to communicate with me. So I'm looking at that question as just an open-ended question to say, hey,
can they communicate?
Exactly. How are they communicating?
And kind of maybe get a hint of the culture that they would fit.
Exactly.
Kind of just
exactly.
Kind of now, and I guess that's without saying why that would be one of the first questions, is just to kind of sit down. Is this to put them at ease, to put you at ease? All of that stuff.
Yeah, I look at that question as more of just that icebreaker, just something to get the interview process started. Generally, from a hiring manager's perspective, they're generally not too nervous, but if they don't do it that often, then they're going to be nervous. So that could be just that icebreaker, just to say, okay, let's get the conversation going. Let's start to engage with this person and go from there.
And then we hit them with your greatest weakness right after that,
Absolutely.
Right? That I always hate that question. Tell us your greatest strength and your greatest weakness. We all know. And is that question just there to see if we can talk the talk of saying some stupid thing that's supposed to be negative? None of us tell the truth. If I have to look at my greatest week, I never show up on time is my greatest. That's something, a checkbox, they will immediately go, oh, she's check.
Right. No,
this guy's done.
Right. That's
nobody
my first
tells
one
the
to say,
truth.
nope,
they work on this question. It's like, okay, greatest weakness. Well, I'm kind of the greatest person on the planet, and I kind of feel like that's a weakness for me, that I'm so great.
Absolutely. Didn't you know?
That question's just, what are they going through? What's the deal with that question?
I kind of look at that question as just, I'm not looking for that, but I'm just looking to see how critical they are of themselves and what sort of mistakes are they willing to own up to? Are they willing to say, hey, you know what, this is something where I know I struggle in, but I'm not really concerned about the issue itself unless it's, maybe something fairly serious, but that's something.
And if they told you something fairly serious, then you don't want to hire that person anyway, because that was a stupid move.
Right, exactly.
So how should we answer that? I know we kind of talked about it off air or whatever you want to call it. That you shouldn't say I'm a perfectionist because that one's used too much.
Yeah.
That's kind of the big. Everybody says, "Oh, I'm a perfectionist. I love everything a certain way," and that's probably a weakness of mine. And everybody's like, "Yeah, whatever. I've heard that 1,000 times." So what should we what is something that we actually should look at?
Yeah, I mean, so I would kind of flip the script a little bit. So, like, let's say you're being asked to like a common question, like, let me see, like maybe about like bragging about yourself or being a perfectionist. So I would flip it and maybe say something like, in my desire to be my best, I tend to focus a little too much on the details. So if you're switching it up to where you're making it say,
I'm a perfectionist, I focus on the details, is not actually saying that, but still saying that.
Exactly. And then you're going to come across a little bit better than saying, "Hey, well, I'm a perfectionist."
I like things a certain way, and sometimes I get really, really crazy about it, and that's probably to my detriment.
Exactly.
Is that what that?
Kind of. I mean, that's a little bit too much, but I mean, again, you just got to kind of you got to soften the blow a little bit, and that's where, like I said, I mean, saying something like, you want to describe your weakness as more of like in a strength manner, like I said, I mean, as I said,
and that's the key. We all know that is it. That's what we're all doing. Exactly. And I guess you want to. Does the hiring manager just want to test that this person's not an idiot?
Essentially, yeah. I mean, I'm looking at that question as more to understand like how critical of themselves are they? How much pressure are they willing to admit to? So
and again, a culture fit, I guess.
Yeah.
We'll know if they're a culture fit, kind of. And I guess I get the question. It's lame to me, but I get it. I mean, I understand it. And what about the strengths? I mean, how do you? I mean, this is where you're supposed to tout how great you are. I mean, what? Tell us your strengths. What do I say to that? I'm the greatest developer on the planet. What can I say? I'm God's gift to development.
Right. When I maybe you are, maybe you aren't. I don't know. But when I do those questions, like I'm looking more not for like praise to give praise, but just more somebody who can
straight shooter.
Straight shooter. Somebody who
says,
"Hey,
I've been doing this for 7 years. I really know what I'm doing, and I feel very confident in it." It's a big strength for me because
Absolutely.
I know what I'm doing, and I know a lot of times in an interview, if you can give examples, because it's one thing to say I'm a great people person. It's another thing to say, in my last job, I was very connected with some of my team members. We did stuff together. We did it. I mean, and then kind of tell a story about how you are very personable or connected, or instead of just touting off, I can do this, I can do that.
Absolutely.
If you can connect it with a story, if you found that the same,
Yeah,
that really shows that you are a human being that actually does stuff and not just touts a lot of words.
And not only a story, but like, I mean, if you can include like accomplishments during that. So let's say your team and I were responsible for doing XYZ. That's telling me, one, that you're a team player. That's telling me that you hit a goal and you accomplished something and you're proud of it. So I'm more apt to be more understanding and grateful that I did get to know about a little bit about that situation.
That makes sense. That's good. I think that these are pertinent. They're the questions that everybody asks, not only in IT but everywhere, but just as pertinent in IT. What about the why do you want this job? That one's interesting to me. I mean, because I need a job. Because I'm looking for a job, you idiot. I'm
Right.
looking for a damn job because I need one, or I'm looking for something better than what I got. That's not how you answer it. Is that correct?
No, that's the only way to answer that question.
Damn it. I'm on food stamps, man. I need a damn job. That's why I'm here.
Just help me out. No, I mean, but in seriousness, I mean, I don't necessarily ask that question, but I mean, it helps people understand why they do want the job. So understanding what
in
sort
an
of background.
IT frame. Is that different from the IT world frame of mind? Why do you want this job?
I mean, I think it can be. I mean, if you're going from hardware or something like a infrastructure position to software development, yeah, I mean, they really want to know why you want that job. Mm-hmm. What's making you want to make this switch from hardware to software?
Or admin, you've been an admin and now you want to go to security. What's the deal there?
Why?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's where it can be kind of more relevant and more...
Because you want to grow. You want to become better in your field. You want to learn more. You want to become stronger in that vein of IT or whatever it is. I mean, that really pushing how excited you are to learn and grow from the job is probably a big deal.
Absolutely. And like you were saying before, telling a story of saying, hey, you know what, I was working with this one client, they were doing this, and unfortunately we had this happen, so it made me want to become more interested in security, so I found my passion for it. Boom, done.
Yeah. Again, I think stories... I remember taking an interview class many, many, many years ago, and we would sit down and do interviews together, and one of the key components was not to just tell them that you're good at this or good at that, but surround it with an example of that in another position that you had. If you had examples of these questions from other positions, you're 10 times ahead of all the other interviewees. And the first interview I went on after taking that class, I got a job offer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I did it just like that.
And that's where, like, what I like to do is when I know my clients and I know what they're looking for, I do a pre-interview with my candidates just to make sure that I understand and know that they can qualify for what they're looking for. One, that makes the transition even easier. And two, that gives my candidate a leg up. I want to do everything I can to get him that job.
Right.
So that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, it makes sense. What about the, why do you think we should hire you? Why do you think we should hire you?
Yeah, I mean...
Is this another tell me how great you are? Isn't that the same as what your strengths, or is it different?
I mean, I think it's similar, but I think it's different. When they're asking that question, you really want to understand how you can contribute to the culture or the mission of the company. So it's going to take some research on your part, but you're going to have to understand, why do you want to be a part of this organization? Let's say you are passionate about dogs and you want to work for a company that's in the grooming industry. Well, you can talk about your passion for dogs and how you think that this is a good thing and how you can contribute to the overall success of making sure that animals are safe or something.
Yeah. Well, what if I'm a developer, so stay in the IT world, and you're hiring? Why should, there's a million developers out there, right? Why as a developer would I pick you over all the other 100 candidates?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where it just comes to understanding and knowing what the company's mission is and seeing how you can align yourself with that.
Yeah, you just said something super important. Again, something that they taught in that class many years ago that has stuck with me is you do your research.
Oh, you have to.
You do your research with that company. And I bet with you, you do that with all your potential guys.
Well, of course. I mean, I want to give my candidates a leg up.
Yeah. So your candidates, you kind of give them the whole spiel. This is the company. This is what they do. This is their. You kind of give them that whole spiel.
I give them as much information as needed, but I also expect them to do their own homework.
Oh, you do?
I do, because I can't give it all to you. I can tell you everything I can about that company. I can tell you everything. But when I come to do my pre-interview with you before your interview, that's when I'm asking them those questions. Why should we hire you? How do you see yourself working for this company, and kind of understanding that vision and understanding that tells me right then and there if they've done their homework, if they're serious about the job. If they're not, then I can tell how it's going to work out.
Oh, fair. And that works in the why should we hire you question, because I've really researched your company and I really want to work for you.
Exactly.
That has everybody researched your company? You'll know 9 out of 10 guys, girls, whoever will not do what it takes.
Right.
Their job sifting or running, or they're spitting out to see what jumps in their lap or whatever. Guys, that is I think, the worst thing to do. I know we talked about this. This podcast isn't about hiring a what is it you are?
A
recruiter. Headhunter. Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it.
This isn't what the podcast is about, but it goes back to in the IT space. I think for real, you are definitely a friend or an advocate that can sift you through a lot of junk. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I mean, and this is going to be a little bit self-touting, but I had a candidate that I spoke to today. I've never spoke to him before, but I ended up having a 45-minute conversation with him. And at the end of the conversation, he's like, you're my favorite recruiter I've ever talked to. I can go on for hours with you. And I told him, I says, well, one, I love what I do, but two, it's not about that for me. It's about building these relationships. Yeah. And that's what, at the end of the day, that's really what it is for me. Is I want to be able to. People switch jobs now every 3 to 5 years. It's I may be a little bit
which
selfish,
is good business for you,
but it's great business for me.
Yeah.
So it's only in my best interest to build these long-lasting relationships so that I can be there.
Yeah.
But more than that, I care. I want to make sure that your success is my success.
That's a cool gig. It's a cool gig to really assist people in finding good jobs that they want. That's pretty darn cool. I admire you. I admire what you do. I know what kind of a person you are.
Right.
This is not, tout how great Brad is, but he's a pretty damn cool dude. But anyway, I've got I got a last question. And this one is interesting to me too. So in the interview process, so how do you deal with stress in the job space? What if your boss does something unethical? How would you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, I look at that question as more they're gauging your character. Mm. They're gauging whether or not you're a trustworthy person.
Is anybody? I mean, even if I'm a psychopath, I'm going to say, "Oh, well, I would blah blah." I'm going to try and give the right answer, aren't I?
I don't know. I mean, I think it just really depends on the personality of the person. I mean, I have had some people and again, I mean, not to say that IT people are different, but they are different. I've had some people be really like that straightforward, and it's like,
okay,
whoa, that's something you shouldn't say. So, but again, I mean, that helps me understand it, and that's my job is to vet these people. Mm. But that's how I
and to help teach them how to
exactly.
kind of be a little more open and interpersonal with those kind of questions. Well, it's how I handle stress. Well, if my boss did something unethical, I would probably have to go up above and talk to the person and find out how to handle it. I mean, I wouldn't want to be a part of that unethical thing, so I would have to find out from upper management how to deal with that. I mean, I don't know. That's a hard question.
It is a hard question. Me personally, I would say, right on, man. Give him a high five and say, keep it up.
Keep it up. Right.
No.
Well, it depends on the unethicalness of that it was.
Right.
If it was an unethicalness that I agreed with, then that's different.
Absolutely. Hey, you got my cut, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, but in all seriousness, yeah. I mean, I look at it as just a way to just test your moral compass. Yeah. And that's really what it's about.
Yeah. So is there any specific IT questions? And do you think maybe because it's the future, do you think there's going to be any new interview questions in the future of IT or even now, or do you think they will change? What do you think?
I don't think they're changing much. I think from a recruitment standpoint, I think it's my job to vet candidates enough that my clients don't have to really worry about the personality piece of it. Mm-hmm. So that's where I think they're looking at it from hey, I need this candidate to do X, Y, Z. You understand us. You know what we're about. You can gauge whether or not this person fits our culture. Let's get it more from a technical side and say, okay, this is what we need.
Then they don't have to do that. I mean, that is another great reason why a company should use you.
Exactly.
Then they don't have to do all the low-end vetting, and they can get 3 or 4 amazing candidates instead of a pile full of resumes to go through. I'm dumbfounded. I don't know why anybody would do that anymore.
Well, and let's be honest. I mean, HR teams are overwhelmed, and in full transparency, HR is not the best person to be interviewing your people for any IT position.
They just take the criteria and they just spit you out.
Exactly.
And that's not
that's it.
really a good way to,
No.
to cipher
So they
through
say,
that
oh,
stuff.
well, they have some of what we thought you needed, so we're going to send them your way.
That's where it comes down to that have to have and like to have. That is so
Must-haves,
dumb to
right.
me.
Yeah.
If it's a must to have, then
Just say
isn't,
it's
the, isn't the
exactly.
like to have not even worth mentioning if it's not a must have?
Exactly.
I don't know. It'll sway us that way. I mean, it's a hard thing. Let's face it.
is.
It's a hard thing to hire. It's a hard thing to be looking for a job. But you got any last minute tips or tricks or anything that you think you could give the listener out there?
Biggest thing I would say is just be yourself. You are who you are, and either it's going to work out,
And you'll
or
either
it's
fit
not.
with the culture or you want, and you don't want to pretend to be something and not fit. You don't want to do
No,
that.
I mean, at the end of the day, what's that going to do? Make you unhappy at your job?
Yeah.
What happens
exactly.
when you're happy? Then you end up quitting, and then that company's back in the same place, and you're no better.
Yes.
You didn't better yourself.
Wow. Yeah. I think this was good. This was needed. I'm glad we
I think so, too.
did this show. Hopefully there's some folks out there that can listen and learn something from it. So guys, thanks for tuning in. We will see you next time for the new IT.